The sun is disappearing, not all at once, slowly. The shadows stretch across the ground until the trees become dark silhouettes against an orange sky. Birds that filled the forest with noise only minutes ago are suddenly quiet. One by one, they vanish into the branches. You stop what you're doing and look toward the horizon. You have maybe 30 minutes. 30 minutes before the world becomes a place your eyes were never designed to navigate. Today, when darkness falls, nothing really changes. Streetlights flicker on. Cars continue moving. Your phone screen glows in your hand. Even in the middle of the night, you can see for miles. But imagine living 50,000 years ago. No electricity, no flashlight, no house, no locked door. When the last sunlight disappeared, the world belonged to something else. And you were no longer the hunter. You were the one being hunted. This is why, long before the sun touched the horizon, ancient humans began preparing for the night. Not because they wanted to sleep, because they wanted to survive. The first task wasn't finding dinner, it was finding shelter across Africa, Europe, and Asia. Early humans slept wherever the landscape gave them an advantage. Rock overhangs, small caves, natural cliffs, dense clusters of trees. Anywhere that reduced the number of directions, danger could approach. Think about it. If you're standing in an open field, something could attack you from anywhere. If your back is against solid rock, you've already eliminated half of those possibilities. Simple decisions like that could mean living until morning. But shelter alone wasn't enough, because the night had another enemy that never stopped hunting. Cold. Most people picture prehistoric life as endless heat beneath an African sun. The reality was much more complicated. Even in warm climates, temperatures can drop dramatically after sunset. Without insulated clothing, without heated buildings, without sleeping bags, your body immediately begins losing heat. And unlike today, there was no thermostat to turn up, no extra blanket waiting in the closet, just your own body, trying desperately to hold on to the warmth that had gathered during the day. Archaeologists believe animal hides became one of humanity's greatest inventions, not because they looked impressive, but because they bought another few degrees of warmth. Sometimes a few degrees is the difference between waking up and never waking up again. Then there was the sound. Imagine lying perfectly still. The fire crackles beside you. Everyone else has fallen silent. Beyond the edge of the firelight, you hear something. A twig snaps, leaves rustle, then silence. Was it the wind, a deer, another person, or something watching from the darkness? You don't know. And that's exactly what makes it terrifying. Modern humans experience fear, mostly through imagination. Ancient humans experienced fear because imagination kept them alive. Every unexplained sound demanded attention. Ignoring the wrong one could cost the entire group their lives. Archaeological sites across the world remind us that humans were not always the dominant species. In several prehistoric caves, researchers have found the remains of both humans and large carnivores occupying the same shelters at different times. Sometimes humans arrived first. Sometimes the predators did. Sometimes they returned to discover they weren't alone anymore. Lions, leopards, hyenas, cave bears, even wolves. The same cave that protected your family from freezing winds might also look like the perfect home to a hungry predator. Ownership meant nothing. Strength decided who stayed. So how did humans survive nights like these? The answer wasn't bigger muscles or sharper teeth. It was something much smaller, a controlled flame. To us, fire is ordinary. You strike a lighter, turn a stove, light a candle. But for ancient humans, a single campfire changed the rules of survival. Fire produced warmth. It dried wet clothing. It allowed meat to be cooked safely. It hardened wooden spear tips. Its smoke drove away insects. And perhaps most importantly, many predators simply didn't like getting too close to it. Not because they feared fire itself, but because they had never evolved to understand it. A ring of glowing embers created something incredibly rare in prehistory. a place where humans had the advantage. That doesn't mean predators disappeared. Far from it. Studies of modern lions show they often avoid strong fires, but they'll still circle beyond the light, waiting for opportunities. Hyenas behave similarly, patient, curious, always testing. Ancient people probably heard them, constantly, laughing, calling, moving just outside the glow, close enough to remind everyone that morning hadn't arrived yet. Which meant someone probably stayed awake. Anthropologists studying traditional hunter-gatherer societies have noticed something fascinating. People don't always sleep. At the same time, older adults often stay awake later. Others wake before dawn. Children sleep deeply. The result is almost accidental. Throughout much of the night, someone is usually awake, not because there's a formal guard schedule, but because human sleep naturally overlaps. For prehistoric groups, that overlap may have become one of the simplest forms of protection ever invented. A pair of open eyes, listening, watching, feeding another stick into the fire, waiting for sunrise. And while most of the group rested, the fire kept telling its own story. Every spark drifting upward disappeared into a sky, unlike anything you've ever seen. No city lights, no airplanes, no satellites, only stars, thousands upon thousands of them, bright enough to cast faint shadows across the ground. The Milky Way, stretching from one horizon to the other, like a river of frozen light. For ancient humans, this wasn't entertainment, it was information. Long before written calendars, before clocks, before maps, the sky became humanity's oldest guide. The stars rose in predictable patterns. Certain constellations appeared only during particular seasons. The moon changed shape with astonishing regularity. Watching the sky wasn't a hobby. It was one of the earliest ways humans learned that nature followed patterns. Patterns that could be remembered, predicted, and eventually understood. Human eyes are remarkable during the day. We can recognize thousands of faces, judge distances with incredible accuracy, and spot tiny movements in the distance. But compared to many predators, we're terrible at seeing in the dark. A leopard's eyes can gather several times more light than ours. Hyenas can navigate almost effortlessly under moonlight. Owls don't just see in darkness. They hear movements beneath leaves and snow. Night wasn't merely the absence of daylight. It completely shifted the balance of power. The advantages humans enjoyed during the day disappeared one by one. Long-distance vision, color recognition, accurate throwing, tracking. Suddenly, none of it mattered because the darkness leveled the playing field. Actually, it tilted it against us.